Good afternoon, Suidlanders. How are you? We trust that you are well. I've been a bit scarce for the past week or so, maybe 8 days. And I'm sorry about that, but I have been in Johannesburg most of that time, including travel days. I was there for 6 days, 5 nights, 6 days. And I really had my hands full with some quite preoccupying stuff. Anyway, I'm back now, and I'm going to be making videos and being productive here again. Speaking of productivity, if you hear a noise in the background, don't worry too much about it. It's just somebody doing some work, grinding some pipes. I'm installing a solar geyser. In this region, the RDP houses get solar geysers, the ones with the tubes, the glass tubes, and the calcium, if that's the right thing, in the water leads to those geysers becoming blocked, and people sell them for a pittance as useless. But you can clean them out, as I've done. I got the geyser for next to nothing, cleaned it out, and now I'm having it installed. So that's a good thing, a helpful thing. Let's see how it works, how well it works. I want to talk to you, though, today about the ongoing drama about the ICC's arrest warrant for Putin, of Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. There are a few things to explain to begin with. The International Criminal Court was constituted by the Rome Statutes. So a whole bunch of countries got together and they endorsed, they signed up to a bunch of statutes that created the International Criminal Court, whose purpose is fourfold. It's for prosecution of genocide and other very notable international crimes. Now, there are 123 member countries out of about 124 countries, 194 countries in the world, depending upon what you consider a country or not. Most people agree on 194. Some dispute whether such and such, for example, Taiwan, very topical, counts as a sovereign state, a country proper, or not. Okay, so there are about 70 odd countries that are not members. South Africa is a member. Ukraine is not a member. The United States, and this will be relevant shortly, is not a member. Russia is not a member. The 123 countries are what you might call signatories bound. So once you sign up, you've got to obey all of the things to which you signed up. And one of those is that if the International Criminal Court issues an arrest warrant for somebody and you're able to arrest them, you must do so. There have only been 2 previous warrants of arrest for national leaders. You will remember that prior to the International Court, which was constituted in July 1998, and I think it came into effect in 2002. It might have taken as long as that. Prior to that, during the time of the Yugoslav war, or afterwards, Milosevic, the Serbian president, was arrested and tried for war crimes. And there have been others, but that was prior to the ICC as we know it today, effective July 1998, or really in 2002. Okay, so the only 2 guys, 2 previous heads of state that the ICC has endeavored to prosecute were Uhuru Kenyatta, then the president of Kenya, in about 2007, 2008-ish, for election violence, and Omar al-Bashir, the president of Sudan in 2015 for the Darfur crisis, 2003-2008, if I remember correctly. In Uhuru Kenyatta's case, the prosecution eventually withdrew the case, citing intimidation of witnesses and, I don't know, some odd things, or to me they were odd. It was just too messy for their liking, so they withdrew the case. In Omar al-Bashir's case, he was meant to be arrested in South Africa. You remember that, in 2015. And Jacob Zuma and co. said that as far as they understand it, it was invalid because there are certain international laws that protect heads of state. Fair comment. I don't say that it's necessarily 100% true. I do say that on the face of it, well, that's a fair comment. If there are indeed such laws, and if they are indeed applicable, well, you've got a point. Should the South Africans have arrested Omar al-Bashir or not? I don't know, but they made a fair point. Hey, it's well and good you issue an arrest warrant for this guy, and you say that we must execute it. But as far as we can tell from the reading, your arrest warrant contradicts the rights of a serving head of state. There's some immunity. Okay. So now, Vladimir Putin and his Children's Rights Commissioner are being prosecuted for various things, including child smuggling. So we'll just keep this simple without going into all the minutiae of the various allegations and charges. In simple terms, children have, and this is not being disputed, been removed from Ukraine, from those areas occupied by Russia, in other words, the Russian portion of Ukraine, where the people are ethnically overwhelmingly Russian and overwhelmingly Russian speaking. Some children, the numbers vary, but perhaps as many as 2,000 have been removed from the war zone and sent to Russia. And some of them have been adopted by Russian families. That's a fact that's not disputed by anybody. The Russians maintain that they've done nothing wrong, that in fact they've done a good thing. They've rescued children from war zones. They've rescued children who were orphans. They've rescued children that were not orphaned. That is to say, they lost their parents, but they were fostered by family members who weren't in a position to look after them safely. I'm not taking the Russian side, I'm presenting their argument to you. So they're saying, what we did was far from bad, it was good. We had our Children's Human Rights Commissioner in charge of it. She's a good woman, she loves the kids. She's trying to do a good thing. But there is a claim that some of those children should not have been removed, or many of them, and that it amounts to child smuggling and kidnapping and similar things. And all of this comes out of some work done by an American university, the Yale University Humanitarian Research Laboratory. So these university people made this allegation. These kids are being pinched, they're being abducted, they're being kidnapped. It's all too bad for words. Somebody should be doing something about this. Then some American politicians got involved and said, yes, can you believe it? Look at the international court, not a criminal court, not lifting a finger to help the poor kiddies. So the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, I'll think of his name, made 4 trips, or has made over the past year and some change, 4 trips to Ukraine to assess the matter for himself. Presumably, he didn't go into the war zone occupied by the Russians. Nevertheless, he went there, He sized things up as best he could, and he determined that there was a prima facie case to be answered by Vladimir Putin and his Children's Rights Commissioner, a woman, in person. In their personal capacities, they were directly responsible for these war crimes. And so a case was opened and an arrest warrant was issued. The first thing to mention is that the Russians, again we have this theme of the immunity of a serving head of state, the Russians countersued, saying what you're doing is wrong, and you know that it's wrong, and we're going to take you to the cleaners for it. Because Vladimir Putin is a serving head of state. The proposed ideal opportunity for the arrest of Vladimir Putin is, as with Omar al-Bashir, once again South Africa. The scene being the BRICS summit meeting, so that's the highest level meeting, summit as in mountain, the summit of Mount Everest, the climbers got to the summit, the highest level meeting of BRICS, happening in August 22nd to 24th in Cape Town. The Premier of the Western Cape, Alan Winde, has said the South African government is sleg, they're useless, they're not doing what they should be doing under international law, they should be acting to arrest Vladimir Putin, which they're not doing. So he said, if they don't do it, we, the ANC, the DA-led government of the Western Cape, I hope that noise is not too loud and distracting for you, we'll take matters into our own hands. Well, firstly, that's absurd, because they are not a sovereign state. The Western Cape, although you only have to know 4 Cape Townians to know that that's not how they think, but in fact, the Western Cape is not a sovereign state. And Cape Town is not a sovereign republic either. So it's idiotic. I mean, it's that false. And Alan Winde knows that. But, of course, he's playing to the gallery, and the gallery is too ignorant to know any better. I wanted to go back a step. The government, the South African government, is vacillating. At one point, they said, under no circumstances will we arrest Vladimir Putin. The president said that. And a very short while after, a few hours if I'm not mistaken, somebody, perhaps the Department of International Relations, who knows, issued a statement saying there was a miscommunication and there was an error and it's not the president's fault and the ANCs are victims. The ANC is a victim of history and everything. So unfair. Implying that maybe they would arrest Vladimir Putin. Since then, allegations have emerged, or claims, that the government, the South African government, is trying to convince Vladimir Putin to remain at home and not to attend this summit meeting. And by the way, he's attended every one of the previous 14. This will be the 15th. For him to stay at home so that they're not confronted by the dilemma, the poor angels, sweethearts, victims. The gist of it is that really it's false. The whole thing is false, because you have an American university and American politicians agitating for an organization in which they don't believe, to arrest somebody who is also not a signatory to those statutes. I mean, think about it. if you lived in a village and the people of the village wanted to enact a new law, but the law was not binding on everybody. It was binding on those that signed up to it, but those that didn't sign up, well, there was no good reason why they should be compelled to be signed up or to sign up. However, so you might be the person who says, well, this story of not opening the taps on Saturdays doesn't work for me. And I'm sovereign in this matter. So I'm going to open my taps on Saturdays. And many people agree with you and they say, we will run our taps on Saturdays too. We'll water our gardens. We'll bath, shower, use water for cooking, water for washing dishes. However, at some point, one of those others who doesn't believe in this kind of statute that's informally implemented, this bylaw, says you should be arrested for opening your taps on a Saturday. You know, the USA is not a signatory, and Russia is not a signatory, and the territory on which these crimes happened, call it Ukrainian territory, call it the Donbas Independent Republic's territory, call it Russian territory, call it what you will, is not the territory of a sovereign nation that is a signatory to this non-compulsory organization and its non-compulsory laws. But the USA, I beg your pardon, is saying, you, South Africa, you are a signatory, therefore you must. Even if Putin is, I mean, it's absurdity upon absurdity, layers of absurdity. So in this case, the African National Congress is absolutely right. But they're so terrified of American sanctions or some kind of spiteful measures taken by the United States through perhaps the, what's it called? AGOA? African Growth and Opportunities Agreement? Or whatever else, whatever agreement, whatever treaty with the USA, that it's hopping uncomfortably from one foot to the other like a toddler in church who's desperate for the toilet. They haven't a clue, the poor angels, sweethearts. And now you've got the Western Cape say, oh, we'll do it. We'll masquerade as a sovereign republic. A sovereign republic that is a signatory to the Rome statutes. It's too much for your mind. So if you've been wondering what the hang is going on, it's I beg your pardon, everybody, I'm not on form today. It's messy, muddy, and murky. And so you can't really be expected to understand what's going on. Guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to make a donation to our work, please visit saintlanders.org. Enter the home page, scroll to the bottom, and there you will see a number of places where you can make donations or channels through which you can donate very easily, very conveniently. Anyway, thanks again, goodbye, and God bless you.